Well, hello everybody. Welcome to the recording for week 9 for audio engineering. And you can see that week 9 is May 27th to June 2nd. Week 9 is the last full week of the class. And then of course next week you have June 3rd and 4th. Before I jump into week 9, just let me talk about next week. I won't have a recording for next week. Next week there's the final activity, which is careers in audio engineering, and that's the final unit in the class. So if I move down, you'll see right down here the final activity. So you want to make sure you get that done, because that's worth about 90 points. So no matter where you are, get that done, because that can really help your grade. In fact, I would suggest you do that this week. Just then you can see how many more points you need to have. So that final activity, make sure you get that done. And remember, there are no revisions for any work after May 31st. So that's going to be after Friday. No revisions for all that. The last you can turn in work is midnight on June 4th. So that's for the final activity. Now for this week, you can see we're doing section 5, which is mastering sound. And there are 5 lessons in section 5, just like all of our work lately has had 5 lessons. And you have study questions that you'll do, the quiz that you'll do, of course use the quiz preview I provide, and finally the assignment, and then the 5B assignment. Now before we jump into this, just a reminder, I sent out a passing plan about a week and a half ago, and that passing plan, if you stick to that, you can pass the class and get a grade of a D minus. So I would suggest that you look at that passing plan that I sent you in an email. It's a little bit different than this passing plan down here. So at this late date, if you're really struggling, get into a passing plan. And last thing, remember you need 595 points to pass the class. Alright, let's go on down to week 5, or week 9, section 5. So let's look at the Class Connect right up first. Alright, in lesson 1, what are 2 examples of audio signal processing? What is EQ usually or used to fixed? And what does it mean when equalization tool can save as state? So those are the 3 questions from lesson 1, so we'll jump into lesson 1. So lesson 1 is all about mastering sound. And look at the goals of mastering. Use EQ or equalization to change the sound of a track, compress and normalize tracks, fade in and fade out, use phaser and wah-wah effects. So first thing I want you to do, you're going to download resources. They give you some sound files that you're going to use. So either choose the Firefox download or the Internet Explorer download. So if you click on that, then you'll get to the files that you'll save. So you'll download those resources. When you download them, then save them into your audio engineering folder so you can see exactly how to do that. So save them into section 5 folder. And once you get them saved, then of course your next step is you're going to need to unzip them. You've done that before, so you just unzip. So you go to where that folder is, right click, and then you can unzip. So you should know how to do that because you've done it before. So you can either use 7-zip or you can just extract here when you right click on it. I believe all of you confirmed that you could zip and unzip because you had to do it 2 or 3 times in this class. So you need to get the resources for lesson 5, for section 5 I should say. Okay, so now that you have resources, now we're going to move into mastering and EQ. And that's where you can change audio sound of recorded files. So mastering is the art of preparing audio files for transfer onto the finished product. So you have the audio file that's been created, then mastering is where you make it the final product, where you make it exactly what you want. So the audio engineer needs to, just as it says here, make sure everything sounds right before they get the final version. And you can see that some of the things at the mastering, some of the goals that you have is to do the order of the songs. So of course you want to do, which songs, what order do you want them to go into. So they work on that. The matching levels. So make sure that the volume levels for all the songs and all the infill tracks are all the same. So they're matching up all the songs so that the whole CD or DVD or whatever it is sounds fine. Frequency balance, they're going to mess with that. Oh, come on. There we go. Frequency balance, so that no one frequency sounds much louder than the others. So you can see on this kind of a control board what they would do with that. Use the sliders to make sure all the frequencies sound fine. And finally, the style of the music. So the mastering is done based on different styles of music. So you can read down here about how rap might be different from old-time rock and roll and things like that are different from jazz. And the mastering just because of the way the sound is. So that's all about mastering. Practice activity, make sure you do that. Then audio signal processing. That's changing audio to make it sound different. And the audio engineers use audio signal processing to finalize the sound of the audio before it goes on to the master recording. And of course, the master recording is what's used to produce multiple CDs, DVDs, things like that. And there are lots of things that they do at audio processors. They change electrical signal to digital signals. You've learned about that. The equalization and compression are two examples of audio signal processing. So those are some of the things that you have to do. What it's going to have you do here, you're going to go and open up Audacity, then you're going to open up a file to play with it. And that file you're going to open, you see is eq1.mp3. That's going to be in your section 5 folder, and that's part of the resources that you just downloaded a few minutes ago. So you can do some equalization work on that. So you can see the equalization is increases or decreases the amplitude of different frequencies. And you can be done with hardware, where you have these sliders, these knobs like this, or it can be done with software, like you're going to be doing with Audacity, doing with software. So EQ can be used to fix minor audio problems. If an audio problem has a track has a major problem, it's probably best to re-record the track. So that's what EQ can be used for, is to fix minor audio problems. So if part of the sound isn't exactly right, then EQ can adjust the sound so it's a little bit better. So many uses: make instruments sound better, prevent feedback, reduce noise and leakage. You've heard about those things, right? So there's also what's called the Fletcher-Munson effect. So you read what this does for sound. So the ear is less sensitive to very low and very high frequency sounds at low volumes than it is at loud volumes. You can see what this effect does. So it's a natural occurring effect in humans. So then you can adjust for that. And finally, make similar sounds more distinct and adjust close miking. So I'm not going to show all those, but you can see the different things that EQ can be used for. But mainly, EQ is used, as we said earlier, to take care of minor issues. If there was a huge issue with instruments sounding better, then they would probably re-record. For practice activity, make sure you do that. So positive and negative decibels. So I was going to talk a little bit more about the science of sound. So they use the positive and negative decibels to change the amplitude of frequencies. So you can read about all these points, and when you're doing this stuff, you can see on this graph over here, you can barely see it, but here's the 0 decibel line, then above it is positive, below it is negative. So you increase or decrease the sound's amplitude. You've learned about amplitude as you've gone along in the class. Now the equalization tool. This is what you use that lets you control the gain levels for specific frequencies. Now, one of the features of the equalization tool is it saves its state. This is important. This means when you use it and make changes, it will remember the changes you make the next time you use it. So the great thing about the equalization tool is that it's kind of a learning thing, and once it figures out what you need to do, then it can remember those things for you and make it easier for you to do your work later on. So that's what it means when it saves its state. That's what it means about the equalization tool and what that does. And you can see all the different things with the equalization tool. The equalization curves, read through those yourselves, the decibels, the frequency. You can see the different charts that you use as you go through the equalization work. Resizing, flat, tube mode. So there's all these different things that you do with the equalization tool. Okay, now they're going to have you open the equalization tool and do some work with that. The equalization graphs that you'll work with. So you can see you're going to have sliders over here on the left that'll affect these graphs as you work through it. So go ahead and you have the blue and green curves, the length of filters. So you're going to do quite a bit of work with the equalization tool. Just follow along. You can see down here at the bottom that you have the sliders that you work with, and the sliders on the left and the right, or the sliders over on the left too. So the graphic EQ mode, you'll be working with that a little bit. Just follow all of these directions to do the work you're supposed to do. Finally, you'll save your file. Make sure you save it in the right place with the correct name. Check your work. So we learned about the goals of mastering, learned what EQ does, what it's for, and we learned what EQ does. Let's go back to the Class Connect write-up. So we answered all three of these questions. Now, lesson 2. What can curve presets do? So here we are in lesson 2. And in lesson 2, some of the ideas you're going to work with is more of the equalization tool. So you're going to go open up a file. So follow these directions to open the file called eqfix.aup. So you're going to open up an Audacity file. We're going to have you import the audio. That's what you have to do. If you want to work on a file, you have to import it. So make sure you do exactly what they're telling you to do. So there's the draw curves mode, and what this does, you can see it lets you change these curves by clicking and dragging the points. So the control points are the white circles along here, so those are the dots along there, and those are the things that you can move as the control points. So you just drag it wherever you want it. And you'll hear the sounds change as you move those curves. So now they're going to have you get into the draw curves mode, so follow these directions to do that correctly. Then you're going to have you draw your own curves. You're going to have a chance to play around with that a little bit. Curve presets. These are specifically shaped equalization curves included in the tool. So you can, here's what they do. They make audio sound if it were recorded in a specific way. Other curve presets are based on making audio sound a certain way, like how music sounds on an AM radio. So it's interesting, isn't it, how you can go ahead and use these presets to make music sound the way that you want it to sound. But those are what the presets are for. That was one of the Class Connect write-up questions. Let's go back and see what that says. What can curve presets do? They can make audio sound as if it was recorded in a specific way. So that's what curve presets can do. So you'll just go on through this. You're going to import some audio here. Follow those directions as usual. And you're going to do some work with the curve presets. So step through those activities, follow all of the directions, and it works out fine. You're going to make your own curve preset. So you're going to create your own. So you're doing some customizing. You're going to save that customization, the curve preset that you created. Check your work, make sure you save the right files. So we looked at the equalization tool to draw curves, and you saved your own curve preset. So that's lesson 2. Let's go back to the Class Connect write-up. And in lesson 3, what are the two level meters in Audacity? What does the red line mean? Audacity's level meters. And explain what compression lets you do. Okay, so now we're going to look at the level meters in Audacity. So go in and open up a file, do exactly what they say. So you're going to go in and open up the compressed.mp3 file that you downloaded. Now the level meters, they show the amplitude of the audio being played as it's being played, so they'll bounce up and down as you're playing the sound. That's different from the volume. And you're looking at the waveform that's being played, matches the level of the meter. In Audacity, there are two level meters. One is an audio input and one is the audio output meters. And when you're recording sound in Audacity, you'll see it says the level meter shows the amplitude of the recorded sounds. So, and you've probably seen the meters work a little bit with some of the work that you've done so far. Let's go back to the Class Connect write-up. As far as those questions, what are the two level meters in Audacity? What does red line mean? Explain what compression lets you do. So the two level meters are input and output. So here's the toolbar, the level meters toolbar. So you can see that you have the light green bar, the dark green bar, the green line. So you see the green line in here, the blue line, and then find the red line. The red line appears if the amplitude of the waveform is too high. This happens if the sound is too loud. When this happens, the highest amplitude of the audio has been cut off or clipped. So clipping is a type of audio distortion that happens when the audio signal's amplitude is greater than the recording device. And you learned about that before probably. Now, and here's the answer. If you see a red line appear in the level meters, it means that your audio is being clipped, so it's automatic you're having the clipping done. You want to avoid clipping because the audio won't sound right. So be careful on this, and it says right down here, turn the volume before playing this sound. So they're going to have you play this sound right here. I'm not going to do it on mine, but turn it down and then hit that button, and you can listen to clipped bass drum. So whenever you have the red lines, that's what it means, that it's clipping. So some practice activity for you. So now reading the level meter. Let's go back to the write-up questions. I want to make sure I cover those. Red line, we did that. Explain what compression lets you do. So keep that in mind. Okay, so reading the level meters. So they're going to have you do a little bit of work with this. Follow those directions. Work with the sliders. Careful if you're wearing headphones. Make sure your volume is down. So docking and undocking the toolbars, so you can grab the toolbar and move it away from the dock where it's docked at the station. So do that if you want to. I'm going to work you through a little bit of practice on that. So you're going to undock the meter toolbar, so work through those activities, the steps there. Then you're going to dock it, so I just want you to practice those couple of things. Okay, compression. So there's dynamic range compression, also just called compression. And what it does is it decreases the amplitude of sounds greater than a specific threshold. So what it means is that it'll automatically reduce the amplitude based on what thresholds you set. So the threshold is where compression starts. So when a sound's amplitude goes above the threshold, the compression brings it below the threshold level. So that way you're controlling the sound. And really the basics of compression right down here lets you increase the overall volume of the audio so the quiet sounds are louder without the loudest becoming louder. So isn't that cool? So you can increase the quiet sounds, but it will not increase the loud sounds at the same time, because those loud sounds will only go up to a certain level. But that's what compression lets you do. That was the answer to that Class Connect write-up. It's right down here with what compression lets you do. practice activity, do that. Now, dynamic range compressor, so here are all the different things it can do. I'm not going to click through all of those, but you can see the different things that can do. So you want to make sure when you go through this on your own, go through that to understand all those. I'm just going to go to more options, the bottom one, so I can move forward. You want to go through all those yourself. Now, finding the peaks, here's another activity they're going to have you do. So work through all of those to get this hands-on practice. Find the peaks of the sounds. They're going to have you compress audio. So you'll work through that step, compressing the audio. Save your file, save it with the correct name. Check your work. That's all for lesson 3. So we learned about level meters, undocking, resizing, mixing with the toolbar, identifying peaks of the audio, and compressing. Now in lesson 4, normalizing and fading audio. So you have lesson 4 to go through. So you're going to import some files and work on that. Now, I have no write-up questions for lessons 4 or 5. The normalization is going to look at the increase, decrease amplitude of audio. With looking at peak amplitudes, so just go through these activities in lesson 4. Work through all that, and I'm not going to go through all of these things because there are no Class Connect write-up questions to show you. But you can see you're going to work on the normalize effect. You're going to get a lot of practice using the Audacity audio, the EQ commands. So there's some fade activities. You're going to open up some files and work on fading and doing some of that work, fading in and out. So please work through all those things on your own. So work all the way through lesson 4. Now I'm going to go ahead and slide down here to lesson 5. In lesson 5, the phaser and wah-wah effects, you're going to have a little bit of practice with that. You're going to import files to start to practice this work. So follow all the directions. So phaser is the audio signal processing that creates an out-of-phase copy of a sound wave to add new peaks and such. So you're really going to start creating some real sounds, and really customizing it. So lots of different phaser effects. You can read through all of those. I'm just going to go to the last one. You have the phaser effects. So you're going to add a phaser effect. So you work through that activity. The wah-wah sound. You probably heard that. Jazz trumpeters and trombonists have been doing that. Guitarists can do it with the pedal, the wah-wah sound. So you can click on this and you can hear that. So go through all these activities, and that'll get you through this section. Then finally, go down to the end of the table of contents. Remember, the last thing we have is the career connection for the write-up. So go into the career connection and find out what Susan does in her job and do the write-up of that. You've had practice doing all of those. So that's all I have for you. Please remember all of our deadlines. So if I go up to the course home, remember the deadlines for the class. Get this week's work turned in. All work submitted by midnight June 4th, and I'll take any of your old work. No revisions on anything turned in after May 31st. So after this coming Friday, you get no revisions on anything because I'm not going to have time to get everything revised and check things 2 or 3 times. So please get everything done, and the final activity for next week, I would suggest you get that done early this week. It's worth, as I said, about 90 points. Get that final careers activity done, then you'll have an idea of how many more points you need to get to the grade you want. And I'd love for everybody to get in the A and B range, but I know not all students can. So please get at least 595 points so you pass. Well, thanks everybody. I look forward to your work coming in. Bye.